So about 8 years ago, I made these fluorescent flowers. I posted a few examples on my YouTube channel, but I never really gave an educational tutorial. And since then, a lot of people have been asking, how do I make this myself? How do I make it at home? In a nutshell, all you're really doing is submerging the stem of a flower in some sort of dye. The dye I used in a lot of these videos was a dye called disodium fluorescein, which is this red stuff over here. But when dissolved in solution, it turns green. And this is a pretty good contrast for red roses because as it goes up into the vasculature of the flower, you can essentially see where are the veins or the vasculature of the flowers and kind of have a nice intricate pattern. And this can be done conventionally with food coloring, but I figured I might as well show a video how to do it with this dye. So I'll keep it simple, I'll keep it straightforward. The editing's going to be poor, but yeah, I just want to make this educational. The things you'll need are disodium fluorescein. Here we've got about 2.5 grams of the pure salt. You can get this from Sigma Aldrich, or you can try and extract it from highlighters, though I won't go into detail too much about that. The next thing you'll need is about a liter of water, because in this case we're making a 0.25% solution of disodium fluorescein in water. You'll also need a UV light source, or at least a blue light source. For fluorescein to fluoresce, it requires blue light, and this little keychain flashlight also has a blue LED. And last but certainly not least, you will need flowers. Any flowers will generally work as long as they don't have too much latex inside of them. We'll give it a shot with roses and see what we get. So we've just dumped our 2.5 grams of disodium fluorescein into a vase. If I shine a UV light or a blue light on it, we don't really see a lot of fluorescence, especially paired with the fact that this is just under ambient light and the blue light is not super strong. We do see a few drops here and there that are actually fluorescent green, and in order for fluorescein to fluoresce, this stuff has to be dissolved in water, which is what we'll do right now. So now that I've essentially mixed the fluorescein in the water, we can see it is considerably, brighter. Now the one thing to note is that, fluorescein in its pure state is a very concentrated dye. Even if you get a few grains of powder here and there, it'll be a pain to clean up. But the good news is it is water soluble and it's not, a permanent dye. So while it doesn't seem super exciting as it is right now, when it does, go up the vasculature of the plant, and I just use, a rose stem to kind of swirl it around, you'll see a much more pronounced color. Now, normally for, say, ophthalmological solutions, you typically use a 0.1% solution. Here we made about a 0.25, I believe, percent solution. You can go as high as, 5%, but, 0.5%, but generally speaking, anything higher than that, and it'll just be a waste of fluorescein, and you'll start to see some sort of quenching. So we'll see how 0.25% looks. Worst case scenario, we can always dilute the solution. So just a quick update. It's been approximately 20 hours since I put these roses in the 0.25% fluorescein solution. And while the fluorescein is, quite bright, the flowers themselves, not so much. I mean, you can see a little bit of the flowers, vasculature, but it's really not that bright. In contrast to the leaves, you can certainly see that the leaves are a little bit more perfused. But again, the main focus here is to make fluorescent roses. And currently with this concentration, I think it might be too high. I think 0.25% might be causing some sort of quenching within the leaves themselves. Or if that's not the case, it's probably the red petals that basically block the blue light from being able to pass through. That being said, what I'll do is I'll try and order a more powerful UV flashlight. And then the second thing I've just tried right now is a much more dilute solution. So instead of 0.25, we're dealing with 0.05. Now I just submerged these a few minutes ago, so I know we're not going to see any fluorescence whatsoever. But this will be a good comparison to see, is a more dilute solution able to correct for the lack of fluorescence we're seeing. So yeah, I'll follow up, I guess, in a few hours or whenever I start to see fluorescence in this second sample. So just a quick update. These flowers have been in the fluorescent solution for about 72 hours. And then the diluted one, which is at a 4 times lower concentration at 0.05%, has been in there for about 50 hours. So let's take a look. So if we use this blue light, so non-UV, we can see a little bit of fluorescence like on the flowers itself. It's going to be hard to actually capture how much fluorescence there is in reality because, you know, a lot of iPhone cameras aren't optimized for that kind of stuff. But yeah, you can clearly see, you know, the vasculature, and it's reasonably bright. Now, if we look at this one, pretty much non-existent. The leaves do have some uptake, if it'll focus, but it's nothing super pronounced. So I'm attributing this to the lower concentration. However, there's one thing I didn't really explore too much, which is using an actual UV light source at 365 nanometers as opposed to blue light. And that is what I have right here. If I can figure out where the on switch is. So yeah, you can see that it does not look purple or blue, and that's because the human eye cannot really see the entirety of the wavelength produced by something at 365 nanometers. So let's actually see how this affects fluorescence. Right off, you can see that the fluorescent solution, even at a more dilute concentration, is much more fluorescent. The leaves, however, not so much. Yes, we see the leaves are fluorescent, but that's not the end goal here. The goal was the petals. Now let's take a look back at our 0.25% solution. And here you can see it is a much more pronounced vasculature. The xylem is clearly, you know, lighting up in the petals. And yeah, so I'd say a 0.25% solution of fluorescein at about 72 hours will give you reasonable fluorescence. The reason I hadn't seen it sooner is because I didn't have a UV light source until I bought this one. So yeah, I'll probably try this one more time in preparation for Valentine's Day and see what we get.